Get ready, folks, for a whirlwind tour through the digital jungle on the AdTech show today with Angelina Eng, the VP of Measurements at the IAB, where we decode the cryptic, demystify the chaotic, and navigate the nebulous realms of AdTech like pros. It's a black belt class in making the complex look cool, served with a side of savvy insights. Ready to level up your digital smarts? Tune in and know more than you did yesterday.
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet the company litigation? No problem. That's why we're here. Trackman Amin, LLP is a true legal powerhouse.
Hi, I'm your host, Pesach Latin, and here we're with Angelina Eng. Angelina, on a scale from 1 to the internet is down, how is your day going today?
Day has been a 10. Last week was more like a 4. But my day's great today. Especially since I get to talk to you.
Well, I appreciate you spending the time. We'll try to get through this fast. You said you had to get out of here in about an hour?
In about 40 minutes, unfortunately.
All right, so we can easily get that done.
Okay.
After swinging from the high-flying trapezes of Morgan Stanley, Merkel, and Denso Aegis, you landed in the lion's den at IAB as the VP of Measurement Attribution back in 2020. Looking back, how did you manage to tame the wild beast of standards and practices in the global marketing media circus?
Well, so I've been involved with the IAB for a really long time, having been on the agency side, especially running, overseeing thousands of media campaigns as a media buyer and a planner, and then running ad operations. Standards and processes are my quote unquote thing, right? So, and I think it's really important that companies embrace standards and best practices to streamline their workflow, manage expectations, and just being able to have consistency with not only the way that they're approaching their media campaigns, but also from an analytics standpoint, right? So when I left Morgan Stanley, I was actually let go due to the market. I reached out to Randall. I saw that there was an opportunity at IAB. As I mentioned, I've been involved with the IAB for quite a long time. I was part of the Ad Ops Council, helped to develop ad verification, the viewability standards, and it met with Dennis Buckheim at the time, who ran IAB Tech Lab, and things seemed, I think that given my skill sets in understanding the business side, but also having a little bit of a technical background, it seemed like a really good fit. So since then, really pushing forward to to understand some of the changes that are happening in our marketplace, especially around deprecation of cookies, the loss of identifiers via Apple iOS, and some of the privacy regulations. It's informing a great deal of the work that I'm currently doing now.
In trying to set global standards, do you see yourself as a diplomat or a ringmaster?
I think of myself as both. Here at IAB, we have to be agnostic, right? We have about 800 member companies who pay into or are involved in all the work that we do here at IAB. And it's important to understand all the different perspectives, what impact certain new standards might have to a business operationally, logistically, financially, and all of that stuff. And so when we're developing standards, need to herd several different cohorts and constituents into the fold. So that's where the ringmaster comes in. Mm-hmm. And get them to actually discuss some of the issues, their opinions, their experiences, and help to collaborate and write whatever standards or best practices we're putting together. It's not easy. It is definitely not easy.
Would you prefer to be a ringmaster, like whipping people into shape, or you're quiet diplomat?
It's really 50-50. Throughout my career, I've always been that way.
Right.
And part of it is
just roll the punches.
just what, yeah, but also I think we need to, in this industry, it's important to be fair and equitable in terms of voices. Uh, you know, I've been around the block, and
Right.
I know a lot, but I'm I value everyone else's opinions. It's not about what I know and what I've experienced, but there are, I need to understand what's happening on the publisher side when I was on the agency side. Why is it difficult for them to perhaps, target specific audiences or deliver certain types of campaigns? Is it because of the way that we have things set up, or that our KPIs or our goals are too uh, unachievable? And so I've always tried to be fair and equitable and balanced in everything that I do, but it's definitely hard.
Who's been the hardest to work with? Has it been the agencies, publishers, or retailers?
Procurement.
Why?
um, I think procurement and finance are the hardest groups to work with. First off, I think that especially on the agency side,
Right.
there's this push to have, to have efficient CPM rates and make sure that the agency that they're working with can buy the lowest rates as possible, and then question the structure of a recommended team that an agency might believe that they need to support one's business. And a lot of the times, roles get cut. It's not as top heavy, or there's not a lot of leadership at the top, so they're trying to, you know, push the agency to have people that are doers versus thinkers. And so I think that unfortunately would result in some of the challenges that we see in the marketplace. There's a lack of guidance, lack of standards, lack of education, and really broader thinking. And I think it's important for marketers to staff teams properly. I've been in situations where they would fund a digital media analytics person who needs to do cross-channel attribution reporting and only staff half a body. And that, I think, is, for a $20 million business, a half a body of an analyst is not enough to deliver the types of data reports that they need.
Has there been any point in the last 4 years you felt you were walking on a tightrope without a net?
Every day.
Right.
Every day.
Why is that?
So there's just so much stuff that is going on, and there's, as I mentioned, a very focused perspective in terms of just being lean and mean. And sometimes I think that everyone is everyone is dispensable where you are, and so no job is secure. And I think that regardless of how much you are well respected by your peers and your leaders, there's always a chance where things can go awry,
Right.
and decisions can be made easily to just to let you go. So, but I also think that, like, especially in this era that we're in, or in this the last 2 years, it's just been so volatile out there.
Right.
Budgets are tight. People are laying people off. There's just so much stuff going on, and a lot of companies are questioning do they have the right people on their staff? Can they reduce their staff to just a few handful of people versus a whole team? So I think every
How did
day
you
is a tightrope.
How'd you navigate the spotlight of leading the IAB Measurement and Attribution Committee through projects like ReArc and Open Measurement?
So that is an IAB Tech Lab. So just to differentiate between IAB and IAB Tech Lab, IAB
Okay.
Tech Lab works on that. So that's all. I think you interviewed Tony Katzer. So
Yeah,
that's
I thought I saw you mention it though in some interview once.
Yeah, when I initially got hired, I was working under Tech Lab, so under
Oh, okay. I'm
Dennis.com.
sorry. I didn't know if
Yeah,
you were still working on that with the.
and then I transitioned off of IAB. But what I would say is that I'm very involved in a lot of the work that the IAB Tech Lab does.
Okay.
I participate in their groups. I foster conversations. I provide my perspective, and my role is to help interpret and translate the work that the IAB does to our business constituents. And then the reverse is taking the feedback of our members and translating that into technical specs that the IAB Tech Lab can work.
With the dust settle, what's one piece of advice you give to someone stepping into the ring of measurement and attribution?
Be a sponge, read everything.
Right.
A lot of the things that we currently do today will most likely not be the same next year or in 2 years. So this is a very transformative industry, especially with privacy sandbox, privacy regulations, and continued changes with Apple iOS. So the way that we target and the way that we measure campaigns today will look very different in the next 2 years.
Is there a moment in the last 4 years that felt like a breakthrough where everything just clicked and the crowd went wild?
Retail media seems to be where a lot of that is happening.
And it's exciting to you?
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, when I worked at Merkel,
Right.
Target was one of our accounts, which we actually helped to develop the infrastructure to what we know as Rondell today. So I was really excited to work on that because it was prior to that I worked on a lot of retail clients, and we kind of did some of the same stuff. However, it was what we call affiliate spend.
Fine.
So we would, when I worked on Home Depot or Staples, we would have one of the brands, let's just take LG refrigerators, give us funding, and we would, on their behalf, spend that money and run campaigns to target prospects within the Home Depot campaigns. So it's very similar to that same mentality of a retail media where, do we allocate it to social? Do we allocate it to programmatic? Is it part of our direct buys? So I feel that retail media has exploded over the last couple of years, especially given the fact that they can provide some attribution data from in-store and online. And however, I do caution that they too are not prone to privacy regulations, and so the use of their first party data and how much they can use it to scale outside of their O&O will likely change. So something to keep a lookout for, but very promising in terms of services that they provide.
What's one thing you wish you had known before you took the leap into your role at the IAB?
I didn't know I had to be in Salesforce as much as I need to.
Had you used it before?
No, I have not. I mean,
you never used Salesforce, so it's a
I've
first.
never used Salesforce, and in most of my jobs, I've never used some of the platforms that I actually used before. So so as a good example, right before or right when I got hired at Denso or Cara at the time to run ad operations, I didn't know how to traffic a campaign. I knew how to input media plans into DoubleClick, but I didn't know how to traffic a campaign and that whole back end side of it. When I went to Morgan Stanley, I had no idea how to use Omniture, but was onboarded very quickly and within 2-3 months did that. So I think in this role, I wasn't expecting the amount of time I would be in Salesforce, as well as the amount of programming an event I would need to do. So IB is very, well known for some of the events that they host. And so there's a lot of work that goes on behind it, which I've never experienced before.
What do you think is like an overlooked weapon in the digital marketers marketers' arsenal these days? Is it something techy or good old-fashioned creativity with a digital twist?
Standard taxonomies.
Okay. Why is it overlooked?
So when I was running ad operations, and I think developing a standard taxonomy that is foundational to all your channels that you're working on, and having consistency across all your channels would provide better reporting,
Okay.
and analytics and advanced insights. And the challenge today that we have is that we have too many platforms that buyers can choose from, as well as publishers. And there is no structure in how we input those data sets. And what I mean by that is campaign names, placement names, creative names, or and attributes of each of those. Are we talking about a direct response campaign, awareness campaign? Are we talking about running on a news site versus an entertainment site? Are we talking about targeting first-party audiences or using third-party data? Those are what right now in every single platform. There are no quote-unquote fields that is standard as an industry to capture that data. So every agency, every publisher, every buyer is inputting that manually, or using some sort of spreadsheet to try and quote unquote concatenate a lot of that data. But in order to parse it out, it requires some work. But if you can have consistency in taxonomies, you can then compare things in a much broader sense. So, and bucket a lot of your strategies together. And that is something that a lot of these platforms don't provide. And so when I was running ad operations and at Morgan Stanley, I really pushed for a standard way that we ran all our campaigns via social, native, search, programmatic, direct buys, CTV, all that stuff. I pushed for a standard taxonomy that was implemented across all these different platforms, and was able to get a really robust database to analyze our campaign performance across all these channels. And that is, I think, not done well enough right now in a lot of agencies and brands.
Right.
Answer.
Yeah, no problem. From early morning psychology classes to digital media maven, your journey sounds like a mix of serendipity and strategic pivots. What was it about that first taste of digital with the Army's website that hooked you?
So I've always been a geek, or maybe geek's not the right word, but I'll call myself a geek. I love computers. We were always one of the first families on the block that had the latest technology, computers, the Commodore 64, the Commodore 128, etc. back then. And so when
I mention that to people nowadays, they have no idea what those are.
Right? Modem 14.4.
I'm like TRSA 80, 14.4 HST, and they look at me like I'm, speaking French.
Or remember when we had to go to terminals to actually send out emails? So that was right before. Anyway,
because my parents were in education, so they had like these email addresses that were about like this long.
Yes,
it was something dot hashtag at, and then there was 1,000 other strings, at FidoNet dot whatever. But it was. I remember that.
Yeah. So when I started at the Army, I was actually an administrative assistant to 5 executives, and one of those executives was responsible for the Army website. And oftentimes, as an administrative assistant, they would have
those are executive officers, right?
Yes, the VPs and above. And in that role, oftentimes, executive assistants or administrative assistants would be able to rotate into a different role throughout the company. So that it's a constant rotation of entry level people into the organization. And so I had the option of being a coordinator for TV or for print, or work on a specific account that was kind of broad, doing the traditional media, or there was this new department called Y&R Brand Dialogue, where one of our executives was working on building the Army website. So I got involved in that. It was the department called Y&R Brand Dialogue was created by Jeff Ratner and Anthony Manson at the time. Jeff Ratner, I think now is he's now at Quigley Simpson, running right under Carl Fremont, and so I knew that they were growing, and I kind of said, hey, if there was an opportunity, I would love to be part of their team. And they said, you know the Army website, why don't you come on over? I was the 12th person hired in that department, and we grew to about 125 within like 3 years. And then we got spun off to an independent company that was purchased by Michael Jordan, the financier, I think from CBS, and he merged 7 different agencies together into one company, and that was a big fail.
Do you ever look back and wonder how your career might have unfolded if you stuck with psychology, or do you feel that you were always meant to land in digital marketing?
I think I was meant to land in digital marketing. I can't see myself. Well, I can. I can see myself as a teacher,
Right.
and I always love the concept of being able to help people grow, teach them things, and see them flourish in their career. So I like the concept of teaching, but I can't see myself doing anything else.
Was there a moment, like this aha moment, and early in your career, you look back as saying, like, I finally made it?
It's when I came to the IAB.
Oh, really? After
Yeah.
30 years or 25 years?
It's hard on the agency side. I always had these dreams that I was trying to fly, and I couldn't fly any higher than maybe 10 feet above the ground.
Right.
And so I think that, and I said this to my husband the other day, I was like, I haven't had those dreams since I started here at IAB, like maybe 3 years, maybe a year after I started here at IAB. I feel that, so I think I've always been kind of the, I consider myself the Lieutenant Riker of the Enterprise, but it's really Captain Kirk that gets Captain.
You're number one.
I'm to a degree in terms of what I know. Yes.
So who's Jean-Luc Picard then?
Jean-Luc Picard is this abstract, everyone else up at the top, the executives.
Right.
I'm the support group, right? I help make decisions. I know some of the ins and outs of what's going on, and I'm also someone that they can go to as an SME, right? So, but in terms of success, I think that I wasn't quite sure where I was going, right? Did I want to stay in ad operations? Do I want to go back to media planning and buying? Do I like the agency side? I think I found kind of my groove once I got here at IAB.
In the early days, AdTech was like the lawless frontier. Can you share a Wild West story from those times that seems kind of unimaginable today?
We had parties every week.
Oh, yeah.
It was
like the 2000s, early 2000s?
1990. I'm going to say 1997.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
There was
before the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Mike Cuban coming into Y&R, sitting at my cubicle, selling me broadcast.com or internet.com, right, at the time.
You said Mark Cuban, right?
Mark Cuban, sorry, Mark Cuban. Right?
Yeah,
he comes
they're
walking
like
in.
Third or fourth person who's mentioned broadcast.com. we if we grew up in that era, we all remember it, and it was way before its time. And then,
yeah,
I used to get all my computer gaming news. There was like a Lose News channel for gaming on broadcast.com that I used to watch all the time.
That's right. But yeah, I remember all the parties. There was a party every week, but we also, I think, at the time there was such a camaraderie with wherever you work, there was a camaraderie within the organization, and it was as if we were all marching to the same direction and dealing with the same things. And so working late, although I would probably working late till 11:30 every night, it was fun.
Yeah.
We had fun back then. We had Nerf guns. We had pool tables.
So just buy a Nerf gun now, and
yeah,
I don't know. Not allow that at the IAB? No Nerf guns?
No, I think they would. I think just people would just look at me weird though, and like, why are we doing this? To have fun.
You mentioned in one of your articles that the sophistication of measurement has evolved drastically. Is there a part of you that misses the simplicity of the past, or are you like all on complexity?
Oh, I love simplicity, but I also love complexity. I think the way that we approach measurement has there's so many things that are still the same but different,
right?
Over the years, and I think we've made it too complex, right? This whole notion of being able to see omni-channel measurement, cross-channel measurement, reach and frequency, duplication, break it down by segments. I think there's something to the effect of being more simplistic. I don't think we need event level data or raw event level data. Using aggregate data is just as useful, I think, to make decisions. I think we need to get away from the click-through rate, so stop talking about click-throughs. And this whole notion of I am all supportive of viewable impressions. I think that's the right thing to do. Now there's a lot of conversations around attention metrics as well as outcome-based measurement. And I question, if we're creating an opportunity for companies to make it a currency, which I don't think
are we
should
actually paying attention to ads? Or are we just kidding ourselves that this can actually be measured?
I think that's a hard question to ask. I think there's validity into understanding if people are paying attention to, especially helping to understand how effective your creative is. I do think I do think it's challenging to try and measure attention in the context of environment. So, and how publishers should be accountable for that.
Could it create a renaissance in creativity, you think?
It could. Although I think AI in itself is doing that.
Okay.
Without it, I think we do need to relook at some of the creative formats that we have. So getting away from the standard ad sizes that we've created. I know that the IAB had many years ago tried to create flexible ads that allowed for that. However, the creative agencies didn't really embrace it. I don't think they even really knew about that they had a choice.
I never heard of this.
Maybe perhaps that's something that we can, reinvigorate for them.
Question. So what happens when consumers realize that we're watching them watch? Will they say this is too intrusive?
So there's the eye tracking and the neurological. Those are all panel based. So they have consented, right?
Okay.
They've consented to it, and they understand that that's being used to inform different data models and help to provide insights into, demographic as well as interest based content advertising. The ones that we call bio data signals or proxy signals, which are typically the same signals that we currently use to measure engagement and interaction and viewability. It's just being packaged in a different way.
Okay.
And now saying that engagement is a subset of attention, and that's where it's more of the big data.
Are we talking about opportunity? Yeah, is this the end of the era of throwing spaghetti at the wall? Or are we just creating a whole new type of spaghetti?
We're probably creating a whole new spaghetti. Well, this industry is known to be creating new pasta dishes.
So will every noodle be crafted for maximum impact in this new environment?
I don't think so. I think.
What about rogue meatballs? Are they the outliers in the quest for ad protection?
Does it have peppers in it?
Yeah, of course.
Add some garlic, some mozzarella cheese in the middle, and then we're good.
Yeah, I think we took the metaphor a little too long, a little too far.
Too much. I think that.
Well, now I'm hungry. I make that lunch
I
as soon.
just had a meatball sandwich. So.
Oh wow, lucky you! You're now wishing you still had it.
I think that is correct. I think that when it comes to the future of measurement and how we're approaching data is that we need to embrace privacy by design approaches. And so this requires a new way of thinking about how we target audiences, what data we collect, how we use that data, who we share that with, and move it towards from deterministic to probabilistic. And some will argue that, the data that we have right now is probabilistic, and we can argue that, but, it's moving from, big, heavy data to perhaps more data modeling, inferred data, correlation. And I think that is I think we'll be fine with that. I think this push for being able to see every single ad impression, every single event, and understand if there's someone in the room watching television at the same time while they're on their mobile devices, that's a dream. It's nice to have that data, but you don't necessarily need it to optimize your campaigns.
So before we go, in a world where you can only network with one person in the industry for the rest of your career, who is your forever LinkedIn connection, and what makes them such a valuable link? Because they remember to endorse you for skills beyond email and Microsoft Word.
Can I pick two? Does it have to be one? Okay.
Well, yeah, it needs to be someone like Kevin Bacon, but with less dancing.
Well, if it's someone in the industry, I really enjoy Richie Glassberg.
Oh yeah, Richie's great.
Richie has been my other one would have been Paul Cherrick, who was my manager, but Richie is someone that who I know has gone through lots of ups and downs, and his, I wrote a newsletter article on him through my newsletter called Angie's Career Gazette about how failure equals success, and it's okay to fail. Right. And he is a prime example of someone who has, drive and passion, and I just love that. But at the same time, I can pick on him and just make fun of him and banter with him all day long, and I'm fine with that. I need someone to pick on and yell at. So he's easy to do that with.
If you got stuck in a time-traveling loop at the same conference over and over again, who's an industry speaker that wouldn't you mind hearing for eternity, and what makes their spiel timeless?
Matt Barish.
Oh, Matt from Index of Change.
Yeah, he's fascinating to listen to, and I knew him through a bunch of networking events, and the kind of the close community that we have. But there was this thing called Clubhouse a few years ago.
Yeah, I remember. It was supposed to be the Facebook, killer, right?
Yeah,
it was going to take over. Is it still around?
No, not anymore. But he had created a group in Clubhouse, and so when it started, I just kept going to it and following him.
Right.
And so, and I think he, I love his openness, his candidness to everything. So it's, everything's not just black and white. There's a lot of gray, but he tells it like it is. So I love listening to Matt and getting his opinions.
If, in the event of the zombie apocalypse, which AdTech guru would you want to be by your side to navigate the wasteland of the internetless world? And what's their survival skill that wins them the spot? And maybe it's their knack for making everything go viral, zombies included.
Hillary Slattery from IAB Tech.
Okay.
She is fascinating. She's a great coworker.
Right. And is she she could retarget those zombies all day?
Yeah. I mean, she can talk about anything and everything. And right now she's really focused on Privacy Sandbox, right?
Okay.
But I feel like she's my second half, right? She's my other half when it comes to...
What is her skill set? How would she make the zombies leave you alone? Would she, convince them to become vegan or something?
No, she'd probably punch them and kick them. She's kind of she has a great personality where I think she can kick some butt.
Okay. Before we go, I'd like to ask everybody if you could send yourself a time traveling text message to when you started in the industry, what would you tell yourself and why? And would you listen to yourself?
I think that, believe in yourself and trust your instincts. I think it's very easy to be pushed down in this industry, to feel not valuable or worth. And I think it's important for people to understand their value and work towards growing, and that things aren't just going to come to you. You have to work hard for it, and that's okay.
All right, that music means it's a wrap. Big shout to Angela for sharing the mic with us. And a hearty hat tip to Troutman and Min for footing the electric bill. Remember, the only worthy snag the victory crown when the game is on. Catch you on the flip side next week.
And just like that, we've zipped through the digital cosmos with Angelina Eng, untangling the intricate webs of AdTech with the ease of seasoned web surfers. From the pulsating heart of IAB's mission to the nostalgic jaunts down memory lane, we've covered the digital map and then some. And remember, stay curious, stay bold, and know more than you did yesterday.